What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam. I am your host. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the recent news that PSA came out about potentially one of the most expensive LeBron cards that's ever been graded was recently graded by PSA, and it was a crossover from BGS. So if you didn't see this over this last week, PSA put out, they were promoting the crossover service that they offer, which I thought was interesting and we're going to get into after I kind of go over the headline here. But there was a LeBron Exquisite RPA, I think it was number 77 of 99, that was graded by PSA, and it got a PSA 10 with a 10 auto. And they also did a Luka card that was, I think, one of the blue shimmers, but the LeBron card was really the most important one, which I think this is the only PSA 10 of that specific card for LeBron, for the Exquisite 2003 LeBron Exquisite RPA, which if you don't know, and I imagine if you're watching this video, you probably understand this, but that card is one of basically the holy grails of basketball cards in the hobby right now. Like one of the number to 23 LeBrons recently sold a couple months ago for like $4 million. And then and that was actually one of the cards, in my opinion, that kind of jump started sort of some of these high-end cards selling for pretty significant amounts, because one of the numbered to, I think it was one of the numbered to 99s original, or no, it was one of the 23s that sold for $1.8 million, and then there was and then one of the other number to 23s sold for 4.2, and then in that kind of same time period of when that number to 23 sold, there was also another number to 99 that I believe sold for over $1 million. So this Exquisite RPA is it's probably one of the best and one of the most important RPAs there are in the hobby. And there's a guy who I talked to on TikTok a bunch. I met him at the National. Name is Carvin. So he used to work at Upper Deck, and he is I don't know what you could even call him. He's the one that made, like, it was his concept. The Exquisite RPA was his concept. Like, he came up with the concept of the Exquisite. Also came up with the cup, if you're familiar with hockey, which is basically like National Treasure's Exquisite for hockey. It's the same thing, but it's just called the cup. So he came up with all of this new product that was really innovative and really revolutionary back in the day. And he tells a story that like it wasn't super popular. Like he thought that, or people thought at the company that this product wasn't going to really sell very well. Now, granted, these cards have sold for upwards of almost $5 million now, so clearly he was correct about that. But the point of this video essentially is I'm going to be talking about the crossover and then this card specifically. So I think it's very interesting. The thing that I think that is the most interesting thing about this card is that PSA is promoting their crossover service, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically when you send a card that's in a BGS slab into PSA or vice versa, and they regrade it and put it into a new slab. And I think Slabstocks put this out. They went back and they found this specific card. I think someone had bought it on eBay for $250,000 back in 2018, and it was in a BGS 9.5 slab. And then they crossed it over to this PSA 10. So I'm not a huge fan of crossing over. Like, I understand if you're a business, like if you're PSA or you're Beckett, obviously you want one of these cards in your holder. You want one of the most expensive, most luxurious cards in the hobby in a PSA holder over BGS if you're PSA and vice versa. But at the same time, I think what happens is that the crossover service isn't just exclusive for some of these high-end cards. Like, what you're finding is that people are going to send in, like, they'll buy, like, a Luka BGS 9, and they'll try and cross it over to a PSA 9, or a PSA 10, because I think what happens is that when people crack these cards out of the slabs, which if you have enough money, realistically, it's worth resending in the card. And I say worth it because eventually, if you get the PSA 10, that's kind of the gold standard, unless you're trying to get a BGS, a black label or a BGS 10, which that's extremely hard, which I think that obviously holds a premium over a PSA 10, but I just don't like how, I don't like how this happens, because what it does is it affects the population reports, which is a very important number. Like, if you watch my other video about Optic versus Prism, you'll look at the numbers and you'll see them, but like, I think that I'm pretty sure there's like a prospect right now. I forget who it is. I think it's I'm pretty sure it is Juan Soto, I think, that has one of his number to 5 Bowman Chrome models. I think there's more than 5 total graded between BGS and PSA, which actually, there's a pretty crazy story that I saw about the Superfractor Juan Soto that PSA graded that got re-slabbed, and it actually had an altered auto that PSA didn't know about. And that's not good. That's like, at the time, I'm sure when they got it graded, Juan Soto wasn't what Juan Soto is today. So, if you're PSA, you're probably not looking at it and saying, well, we need to, I don't know what they do, but if it's a 1 of 1 or some of these low numbers, I just think that there has to be some sort of database that either Topps is in charge of or Panini is in charge of that shows which of these cards have been. If I had to guess, it'd have to be the card companies, not the grading companies, because the grading companies, they're not, they probably don't. They probably don't care what the other company graded a specific card, but like there should be a database for these grading companies to have access to that shows like if the 2 of 5 Luke, no, I don't know. Like if let's just say the 2 of 5 Wander Franco Bowman Chrome Auto has been graded by BGS and it got a BGS 9, and then PSA gets it in and they see that it was a and they see that it was a BGS 9. Like they have the access to knowing that it was a BGS 9. Like there should be some sort of unspoken agreement between the grading companies that we aren't going to, unless there's a significant flaw in the grade, we're not going to just up the grade. Like we're not just going to make that BGS 9 a PSA 10, for example, because like and BGS too, I think they grade a little bit harder than PSA does. So like a BGS 9, I don't think has a good chance of shifting over to a PSA 10, but like a card that's like a PSA 9 probably has a decent chance of shifting over to a BGS 9.5 potentially. But I just think that, it messes up the grading and it messes up the population report. So that's where I just find it very interesting that PSA was promoting this crossover service. Like I said, if I'm BGS or I'm PSA, I want that card in my slab, and I don't want it in the competitor's slab. But like they essentially, which granted also this, I think this looks at it and says like BGS 9.5 was graded a PSA 10. What does that mean for a BGS 9.5? Like, does that mean that there should be more value? There should be more value in these cards? And I think that's almost a different conversation for another video. But from what I remember, when I was getting into sports cards, the BGS 9.5 and the PSA 10 were very similar in price. They were very close in price. But now there's such a significant gap that it's like, I don't know if the thing that I want to dive into a little bit more in a different video is like, I always keep using this chicken or the egg conversation. Is a BGS 9.5, should it always have been this? Should it always have been less valuable than a PSA 10? Or for whatever reason, has a PSA 10 just become more valuable, like even more valuable than a BGS 9.5 compared to what it used to be? It's something that I need to dive into and maybe even ask some people in the industry, like get some of their opinions on if this card is, or if the value should be closer. And, I guess I wonder what it does, because now this PSA 10 LeBron card is a Population 1, or Population 1 and a PSA 10 slab. There are no other PSA 10s that have been graded by PSA, obviously, that are the Exquisite 2003 LeBron RPAs. So I guess this, I don't know if it means that now it's more valuable. I don't think this means that it's more valuable than any of the numbered to 23s, but I do think that this means that it's probably the most valuable numbered to 99, which I think I wouldn't be. I think it's if I were like an eBay troll, or not the troll, but like if I were somebody on eBay and I was trying to sell this card, I think it's number 77 of 99. So you could say like it's the Luka Doncic jersey number, which that is just convoluted, and I may have just given people an idea that I probably shouldn't have right there. But like the numbered 77 is obviously Luka's number, which which that kind of gets into another different conversation about like how can these serial numbers affect the price of the card. Like obviously the number 23 of 99 probably should be the most valuable of these of the number to 99s. But the PSA 10 would probably be second there, and then 1 is probably in the conversation. But I just think it's interesting if you look at kind of what gives these numbers value, and it's basically collectors that give the numbers value. Like, one thing that I think is very interesting, that's sort of something that I hadn't really taken into too much account, like I hadn't taken it super seriously, was the fact that, I forget who said this, I think it was Josh, Cardboard Chronicles from House of Jordans or Card Ladder. I'm not 100% sure if he's the one that said this, but I've heard him say it in the past. We should be making sure we're buying cards that collectors want, not that investors want. Because if we're buying cards just because investors want them, it's almost like a Ponzi scheme in a way, where it's like, how can I buy this card, and what's the price that the next person will pay? And it's like, if eventually, and I don't think this will ever happen, but if eventually card prices fall 90%, like eventually there will be somebody that bought the card for the highest value and sold it for the cheapest. Like, and that's where, if it's a collectible, you know, if you're buying cards because you like them, not because it's good investment, or if you're buying cards because it has a collectible aspect to it, that's where there's going to be collectors who want the cards, where the investors are going to just get out, and they're not going to want to have anything to do with the card if it's a card that has only been wanted by collectors. So it's like, it's almost, I don't know if I think the LeBron PSA 10 Topps Chrome is one that kind of has almost like, it's almost a mix between the two, which is, I think, one of his other iconic rookie cards. It's almost like people see it as a great investment, but it's also collectible because it's like Topps Chrome, it's LeBron, it's all that kind of stuff. But it's like, it's almost like, what happens if the card drops in value? Do collectors still want the card? So I think that's an interesting concept that I haven't really thought about. That's another, and I keep saying this in this video, that there's other topics that I want to dive into a little bit more and get more information on. But I think this LeBron that's been graded by PSA, it's been crossed over by PSA, is probably the most valuable number to, other than probably number 1 of 99 and then number 23 of 99. And then this card is probably you could probably switch any of the rankings of where those cards are priced. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know if this person wants to sell it, if they're going to send it into Golden, or if they're going to send it to like Heritage or any of the big auction houses, or what they're going to do with the card. But now it's in a PSA 10 holder, so it's like, I think that is a very significant deal, and I think it's going to be one of the more valuable cards that we look back on and say, wow, this is one of the more important cards of, the I guess, I don't know if it's modern, or I think it was modern, because I think the way PSA signifies is that ultra modern is, I think, 2016 and beyond, and then modern is like, I think it's I don't know, actually I'm not sure of the dates, but like it's one of the more, modern, one of the more expensive and more important modern day basketball cards of all time. So, I'm interested to see what everyone has to think about the crossover. Like, is it good, or is it something that we should be avoiding in the hobby and not doing? That's all I've got for today's video, so I want to thank you all for watching. Like I've said in most of my videos, if you liked it, if you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. If you learned anything or have any comments of new videos that you want me to do, make sure you leave that in the comments. Thank you, everyone. I will see you in the next one.